Hi friends, it's Kayla Brandon. Welcome back to the Let's Get Candid podcast. How's everybody doing today? Happy Thursday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever day or time it is that you're listening. So happy to be back on the mic with you guys as always. I hope you guys are having a great start to May. I'm so happy that it's summer. It is such a beautiful day, and yesterday was honestly one of my favorite days in a while, and that is saying a lot because I have been traveling quite a bit and I've had some really incredible experiences, but there is honestly just nothing like a casual catch up with a friend, spending hours just doing nothing but being together. We laid out by the beach and just hung out, caught up. It's been months since we had last spoken, really. And then a few of our friends met us out for dinner. We had a couple of drinks, we shared some food, some laughs, and it was just such an incredible evening. And it was innocent, good, easy, chill, fun. And it felt a little bit like being a kid again and just like a play date. And it was just so wholesome. And honestly, I loved it. I went to the Miami Grand Prix last weekend and it was absolutely incredible. I cannot wait to go back next year and to hopefully be able to attend different races around the country and around the globe. And I don't know if I could do all 3 days again unless I went with like a brand or had like paddock passes or something, like a little bit more like VIP, because it was just so much walking and very hot because there was no AC anywhere unless you had like a VIP ticket for any of the lounges and suites. But now I know what to expect in a race and I can tailor my experience better. I was so grateful that my parents got us gifts. For me and my brother, we got to go to the race and it was so fun just bonding with my brother. We had such an incredible weekend. Exhausting, but so much fun. We literally body showered in the car before an event, like after the race. We almost went out after the big race on Sunday, but my feet gave out on me. You know, Met Gala was on Monday, and the Tyla's dress, the sand hourglass dress, was by far my favorite dress. And there's that meme where she's being carried by somebody else because of the way that the dress is so form-fitting. I was like, that would have been me on Sunday if I would have continued to go out. But that was originally the plan. And then I ended up bailing on plans and just going home and taking a nice long shower and going to bed. And I'm still recovering from my sleep schedule, honestly. I woke up at 4:30 this morning and I thought I would be able to take a nap. But I'm currently halfway ready for an event that I got invited to today with a huge brand. This is the first time I'm going to such a big brands event. This has been something that I have been dreaming of and manifesting for so long. I've been saying for quite a few months now that I really want to get back into being an influencer and a creator myself, in addition to being a lawyer for creators and influencers and entrepreneurs in the creator economy. So the fact that I am able to go to this event is just so freaking huge. And I'm going with one of my really good creator friends who her and I actually share our assistant, which is really cool. That was like total happenstance. But it just goes to show how small this community is, especially in Miami. And we all know each other and we're all friends with each other. And it's so nice to run into people at events. So I'm excited to see who also got invited and who will be attending. But the theme is like summer goddess. And it's like white gold Miami chic. And it's at sunset around the bay and like overlooking the beach, and it's such a beautiful location. I've been there before for a different event during the Miami Open, so I'm really looking forward to being back. And actually I went with my friend Allie to that event too, so it'll be really fun to catch up. It's the last time I saw her, and we both done a lot of traveling since then. But yeah, I actually thought hilariously that this week would be chill and slow down, and it has been definitely a lot more chill than previous weeks, but you know, I'm in a season of my life where I'm saying yes to opportunities, and I just feel like right now there's just some momentum in the air and I need to just keep going, but also being mindful of my body and my limits and knowing when I need to take a break. So, you know, Saturday I'm probably going to, actually it's Mother's Day on Sunday, so I will be going to the condo to spend time with my family. That's my Mother's Day gift to her, is that we spend time. So I canceled my plans for the weekend and I'm going to be going to the condo. It's the first weekend back at the condo this year, and I'm really looking forward to just a chill beach weekend. I have a nice base tan going, so it'll be nice to just lay out and read a book. I actually finished reading The Idea of You, the One Direction fanfic that is now a movie with Nicholas Gallatin and Anne Hathaway. I finished it this morning because I woke up at 4:30. So I'm excited to watch the movie on Netflix now that it came out. I hadn't read the book when it originally came out because even though I'm a big One Direction fan, fanfic is just not my thing. And I'm not going to say I loved the book because I don't enjoy fanfic, but I love Anne Hathaway and I love Nicholas Galitzine, so I'm really looking forward to watching the movie. I'll let you guys know my thoughts next week. But that's a little bit about what's going on around here. I am taking a breather from traveling after this week, with the exception of going to the condo because I don't really count that as traveling. It's like less than a 2-hour drive. No more planes for me until June, but I'm going to New York for work, which I'm really looking forward to. And I'm making plans to see friends. I'm actually seeing one of my New York friends the night before the event. We're getting drinks, which again was a last minute plan. Now I'm scrambling to get work done. But, sometimes you just got to do it. Last week, I told you guys I stayed up till midnight working because I went to dinner for 3 hours with a friend. Like, that's okay. It's not everyday thing that I do that. But there's times where I have to do that because I want to make time for the people in my life and I want to make time for myself too. And I think that's just kind of where I'm at in life. It's such a perfect description. It's just, it's an ebb and a flow. Some days the priority is work. Some days the priority is mental health. Some days the priority is friendship. Some days it's parents, it's family. And knowing what your priorities are and how they rank allows you to organize your time and your weeks in accordance with that, and it makes it so much more easy to navigate everything that you're doing, especially if you're someone who has a lot of things on her plate and wears a lot of different hats and is a lot of things to a lot of people. I'm a people person. I'm on all the time. I work with people all day long. I'm always on calls. I'm always talking to people, mentoring, guiding, making content. But it's important to make time for myself too, and giving myself that grace and productive rest, and giving myself permission to have that productive rest. And I made a lot of videos on that lately in my entrepreneurial hack series. I want to compile all of that and make it a blog post. I actually shared on my blog last week my journal prompts. I thought I would compile them all in a written format instead of just a video. But yeah, I think it's going to be nice to have a more chill week and couple of weeks. But next week I'm going to a wellness retreat with several of my lawyer friends. One of my friends, Lauren Klein, who I've been on her podcast, I'll link it below. I'm going to be on a panel at the wellness retreat. So it's going to be yoga and meditation and mindfulness geared towards professional women, mainly lawyers, and having a panel talking about mindfulness in the law on Saturday next week. And then going to go to Coffee and Chill. My friend Lucy, who's hopefully coming on the podcast soon, she is the co-founder of Coffee and Chill, which is a cold plunge and coffee morning every other Sunday. And I haven't gotten to go yet, so I'm excited to go to Coffee and Chill. So lots of wellness things. It's not like I'm not going to do anything, but I'm just not going to be traveling. But I'm going to be around the community and just getting involved in things, which I'm looking forward to. And then I'm excited because the following week, one of my friends from college is in town, or he's coming into town so we can do an updated branding shoot. He did my branding shoot last year, and I can't believe it's already been a year since I worked with him and I got to shoot at his studio, and I'm excited to do it again. He is someone that I've known for literally 9 years, and I feel so comfortable in front of his camera and just have so much fun. He's always taken such fun pictures of me throughout college, and we're going to explore a new studio, so we're looking forward to that. And then it'll be a Memorial Day weekend, so I think he's going to stay in town with a couple of other friends from college that live here, and we're all just going to have a beautiful Memorial Day weekend. We might go to the condo. We might just party in Miami. I'm looking forward to that. It's so much fun to just reconnect with people from college. And I feel like the people who have known me for 5+ years now, which is the majority of my close friends, I know that they're my ride or die. They have seen every evolution of me since I was 17, some of them since longer. And if they still love me now, they value me and they support me and they encourage me and they believe in me. And that is something that no one can take away from me or those friendships. And just, we might go weeks or months or even years without speaking, but we can always pick up exactly where we left off. And there's just nothing like that. But I'm loving all the incredible new people that I'm meeting too. And I'm looking forward to introducing some of those new people to my older friends. And I just feel like the people that are in my life right now, they're aligned with me. They get it. They get me and I get them. And it's just so much more fun and fulfilling that way because we're all just doing something that makes us happy. We're all living truly aligned, happy, fun lives, and it shows, and it's such an incredible feeling. But yeah, I think that is all of the updates for you guys right now. I am looking at my calendar, I'm looking at my to-do list, and I'm just so genuinely excited for what's to come. I told you guys last week that I hired a website designer and I'm redoing my branding and I'm having the branding shoot. So that's going to be coming out soon. I told you guys I'm launching the consulting company. So I'm going to start working with law students and lawyers on personal branding and helping them kind of life coach, like find their purpose, and especially prospective and current law students looking to do law in their own terms. And this doesn't only apply to law students, but that's like my main focus. But I can happily consult with anyone who's just looking to kind of live an aligned life and figure out what drives them and what their purpose is. I've realized that that's truly my passion. That's why I love working in the creator economy so much, because the people who do well and the people who have longevity is because they are showing up authentically online and they're passionate about what they talk about. They are excited. They enjoy connecting with people and building that community. And I want to help them do that and help them protect the brands that they're building and the communities that they're building and provide resources to their communities. And I got to do that as an attorney, and it's so freaking exciting. But yeah, I think that is kind of it there on the spring reset note that I've been talking about, going to the doctors and stuff, which was all of last week's episode was about. I'm going to the doctor tomorrow, start getting my blood work done. I'm going to get all my vitals and just see where I'm at and see what tweaks I can start making little by little to improve, because it's hot girl summer and we are going to be our absolute 100% best selves for ourselves this summer. And that's, again, part of the spring reset. I just got my hair done. I got, my lips done. I got some Botox. I have a tan now. Now it's time to get the hormones in check and feel good. And, Pilates, I'm so sore from Pilates. Jet Set is my favorite, but it's hard. And yoga, and I feel like I'm getting my personality back now that it's summer and I have a tan, and I feel like I'm growing into the body that I was always meant to have and that I love looking in the mirror at. Fun fact, I actually like looking at myself in the mirror naked more than I like looking at myself in clothes, which is normally the opposite. But I'm learning to love the skin I'm in, and I think the most important thing is learning to like yourself despite all your flaws helps you learn to love yourself. And I think once we start really loving ourselves, we can invite more love into our lives through relationships, friendships, opportunities. And that's where I'm at right now. I feel like I'm living this very abundant, open life, and I'm just attracting more people that way because I'm really learning to like who I am and love who I am. And I think that's such a beautiful thing. But I will stop rambling because I have a really exciting guest for you guys today. Sam Evans she's a travel blogger. She's a digital nomad, but she has built an entire business traveling, and not in the traditional, like, I built a 6-figure business that I can do from anywhere so I can travel. She definitely did that too. But she talks about how she got started with traveling and why it's so important to her and how she does it differently and some really unique, easy ways to make money while traveling that I honestly didn't really know were a thing until she told me about it. And I have other friends who've done similar programs, but I've never met someone who really made it a lifestyle. And it's such a unique opportunity that if I would have known about when I was younger, I absolutely would have done. I always had my mindset on grad school and building a future for myself. And this would have never fit into the plans, but I so wish I would have known about it because I would have found a way to make it fit the way that Sam did. I don't want to give too much away, and I want Sam to explain her Lifestyle Redesigned herself. But really fast, let's do a quick suck and sweet of the week, and then I will let you guys go. So my suck of the week is, like I said last week, I honestly don't really think I have one right now. I think things are good. Like always, there's always more work to be done. We're always a work in progress. We are a whole on our own, but we're not complete. And we don't need anyone to complete us or make us whole because we're a whole damn person, but there's always more work to be done. But I honestly can't say that I'm really lacking for anything in my life. I feel like I'm in such a good place, and I'm really just enjoying where I'm at. And I love that you guys get to see me like this. I feel like since I've had this podcast, there hasn't been many times where I truly feel just in such a great place. And that's not to say that there isn't things that are worrying me or bothering me or problems in my life, because there absolutely is. But I think my mindset is the mindset work is working. And that's why I love sharing that with you guys. Be sure to follow me on TikTok to see more. I usually will post on there like every day some tidbit or wisdom. And of course, the podcast that I listen to and share with you guys on Instagram as well. And my sweet of the week is for sure getting invited to this event. And yesterday, just vibing like Aperol spritz and espresso martinis by the pool with friends. Like there's just, and French fries. There's literally nothing better. But I'm really looking forward to this weekend and just spending time with my family and relaxing by the beach. First beach weekend of the year is always something special, but also I feel like in the craziness in the last few weeks, I really haven't spent time with my family. Even though I live with them, I feel like we're roommates and I don't really see them, which I kind of enjoy that's where we're at right now, like roommate stage, instead of like feeling like I'm living with my parents, because there's definitely some downsides. But I've also posted recently how grateful I am for the opportunity to, at 24, move back in with my parents. It was only supposed to be for a year, but now we're going on 2. And, there's days where I wish I lived away from home, but I'm actually really grateful that I have the opportunity and the luxury and the privilege of living at home and having a good enough relationship with my family to be able to do that, to be able to save money, invest in my businesses, invest in myself, and not worry about debt. And honestly, I wouldn't be able to live the life that I do if I didn't live at home. And it's also giving me time to spend with my parents before I build a life that is separate from theirs. But I like that we all have our own individual lives and we get to come home at the end of the day some days and catch up and see what's going on. And there's always something new going on in one of our lives, and it's fun to catch up. And yeah, I'm looking forward to spending some time with them at the beach this weekend, and of course working on my tan. But yeah, I honestly can't say that things are like there's anything going wrong right now in my life. Like in the grand scheme of things, like everything is really working out. I can feel it, and I'm excited for this season of my life and where it's headed. But like Sam, there's always more places to see. I'm working on my 30 before 30, and I talk about that in this episode. And Sam and I talk about all the places we want to travel to and how we're going to do it. And maybe we'll go on a trip sometime together. So stay tuned for that. Hope you guys follow along with Sam's travels and get some travel tips. There's so much good advice on her channels. And I'm really excited for you guys to listen. So if you liked it, please leave a rating and review. Please subscribe to the show. Share with a friend. Tag us as you're listening. Let me know who you want to see next and what topics you want me to cover next. And I will talk to you guys next week. Meet Sam.
So, Sam, what's something that people wouldn't know about you just from following you?
Oh, that's a great question. I would probably say that when I first, so if they do follow me, they know that I travel. If they follow me, something that they wouldn't see on my Instagram would be the separation between being an introvert and an extrovert. And we kind of talked about this before, but when you look at someone's Instagram, you kind of automatically think they're an extrovert. But for me, like traveling and stuff, it's actually pretty scary. And like my biggest fear is always like not being able to make friends or like not knowing what I'm doing or like being scared to talk to people. And I feel like the introvert side of me comes out in those points, and you would never, never, never be able to tell based on my social media. So I would say, yeah, like the introverted side of me never really comes out. I mean, of course, it's social media, so
Yeah.
there's not much to post like when you're introverted, but
No, but it's funny because we were talking about this literally right before we started recording. But I feel as I get older, I'm becoming more of an introvert. And like all my college friends are like, and even some of my law school friends are like,
what?
you an introvert? Like, where? How? And I'm like,
Literally, literally,
guys, I really think I'm becoming like a homebody. Like I much prefer just being home. Like I like going out. I love my house.
yeah,
I love going on a trip, but like at the end of the trip, like I cannot wait to come home to a clean bed and my space and my
yeah,
area and just play with the dogs and like sleep in my own bed and like come home and like lay on the couch with my family and like hang out. Like I much rather do like girls' night, everybody come over, let's have a bottle of wine and a charcuterie board and watch a movie than go to a club. Like don't get me wrong, I'll go clubbing and I'll go on like
yeah.
the crazy like girls trip, but like I'm also cool with like a chill like spa weekend. Like I really think I'm becoming more of an
Yeah,
introvert too. But what you said is really interesting. Like
honestly.
going traveling, it's like can be scary for you sometimes when you're worried you aren't gonna make friends and all of that. And that's something I can talk to a wall, but I have to like almost be in the mood to talk to people. Like there could be times where if I'm just not
Yep,
feeling it and I'm like
exactly.
somewhere and I don't want to really be, but I have to be, I'm not as social, I'm not as personable. And it's like you can sense that like I'm like maybe people think like I'm a bitch or like I'm unapproachable, and like sometimes I play that up because I
Right.
want to be talked to, but other times I'm like, damn, I want to talk to you, but like I just don't have the energy, I don't have the battery
Yeah.
to do this. So how do you navigate that as someone who does travel for a living?
I mean, okay, so it's funny that you said that because I've also had people that I became friends with from traveling. Like, we'll do like, oh, what was your first impression of me? Whatever. And people will be like, Sam, I honestly like, you were pretty quiet, whatever. And I'm like, quiet? Like, what? Because like I know myself and I know how I can be like around people that I'm comfortable with. Like even when
Yeah,
we jumped on this call, it's like we just started talking about our life, whatever.
yeah,
And so it's just funny to hear like on my travel days or on like my first day at the like co-working space or wherever I'm living or whatever. I'm kind of just like, all right, I want to get on my laptop and like refresh, like go take a shower, go to the pool. Like I don't want to talk to anyone. Um, and so so it's just funny that like the opposite of what people think of me is like how I become, I guess, when you get comfortable.
yeah.
Um, but with traveling, it like growing up, I am still an extrovert, but I was never afraid of like anything like that. I think it's just adulting, if I'm being honest. Like
I think
whether
so
you're
too.
traveling or you're just like, making new friends, it's like it's a lot harder. Like we're in our 20s, it's like I'm like, okay, like if you can't relate about school or where you live or whatever, then like what do you talk about? You have to like have something else in common. Like for the past 24 years, it's always been like we go to the same college or we live in the same neighborhood or whatever. And now like that I've graduated and continuing to travel, it's like, okay, we need to have like something in common besides like any of that. And I just think that that's like scary, which is why a lot of us are becoming introverts like when it comes to meeting new people.
No,
But,
that's
like,
such a good
navigating it,
point.
I think honestly
I
yeah,
was
go
gonna
ahead.
say like how old are you? Are you 24 or are you a little older already?
Yeah, I'm 24.
Okay, because it's funny. There was like this thing, like the song, like No One Likes You When You're 23. I joke,
Yeah.
and like I'm not the only person who said this, but like I've really like talked about it a lot where I think 23 is one of the hardest years of your life. And I say that because
Yeah.
it's the first year, truly 23, 24 is when you're finally no longer around people that you are being put in proximity with. Like in high school, in college,
Yep.
someone is still kind of to a certain extent in college telling you where to be, what to do. If you're in Greek life or you're in clubs in school or
Yeah.
you're on a sports team or you're on this or like you have somewhere to be and like you have a group of people that like are like-minded. Once you graduate
Exactly.
college,
Yeah.
you no longer have that. Even if you work at a company, those people all come from so
Yeah.
many different places that you're kind of introduced for the first time really. If you weren't in college, you for sure will be now in the real world, like to people that are different from you. So you're kind of like left with like, okay, who are my friends? Like, who do I hang out with? What do I do after work on a Friday night? Or what do I
Yep.
do on the weekends? Like, there isn't like
Yeah.
sanctioned parties and events and like things to go to. So that adjustment to the real world and like
Exactly.
that adjustment hits you really hard. And I think to what you're saying, like,
Oh my
it's
god, yeah.
it's growing up, it's adulting, it's realizing that you now have it's scary, but it's actually a really beautiful thing. Like you have the power now to go out there and make your own life. You get to decide what that looks like for you.
Yeah.
But having all the options is really scary because we've never had so many options before. And I think that's why we get
Yeah.
so
It's
overwhelmed.
terrifying.
So it's easier to become
Yeah.
introverted because you're like, okay, my home is my safe place, and like I can come back and I'm safe here. And I was
Yep.
just telling my best friend, like,
Exactly.
I'm looking at this point in my life, I'm looking for people that I can feel safe with. Like if I already know them and like them, or like if
Yeah.
I'm meeting them in the wild or through mutual friends, I feel safer with them immediately. Like you and I meeting through Sam and Parker Elevation Nation. Like I already feel a little bit more comfortable with you because we have someone in common
Right.
versus like meeting people on dating apps or like, random strangers. Like you don't have anything common. So it's scary. Like what you were saying, like literally
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
the same conversation I just keep having with people.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I think like even you saying that and you said something earlier where you're like you turn 26 and this is like kind of the first time you feel like you have like really solid female friends. I am like at the beginning of that. So I just turned
Yeah.
24. So like I still feel 23 and like exactly what you said, it was and still is like extremely
25 for
hard to
me
just
was wait
accept
till you
it.
turn 25. Like, I feel like, yeah, 24 was really that turning point where I was like, okay, I'd gone through all this shit at 23, 24. I'm at the end of the year. I'm a November baby. So it's always like right when the new year hits, I'm like, new year, new me, fresh start, like literally, because it's like actually like a new year for
Yep.
me also.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what?
Right.
Is done. 24, like I'm gonna graduate. That was the year I graduated from law school. I was like, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna move home, I'm gonna do all these cool things. And I did all of that. I did all the things I said I was gonna do. I went to Europe for a month. I lived my best life. I fell in love with an Italian soldier like in the same night that I met him. Literally never spoke to him again after like
Yeah.
2 weeks. But I literally only saw him that one night. I met my best friend in Europe. We were literally running around Europe wasted, having the time of our lives. I get home, find out I passed the bar, I start my firm, I'm like thriving. And then 25, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna take a leap of faith in my personal life and go full time on my own, quit my job, like date the boy that I shouldn't date, but like I like him, so fuck it. Like I really started trusting myself.
Yeah.
Times where I really came into that, So I feel like enjoy
Yeah.
this like 24, 25 was like such a transformative, fun time in my life. And now at 26, I'm like, damn, I really
Yeah.
like this girl. Like, I like who I'm becoming. So just wait, it's coming for you.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't wait. I really can't wait. I think that's also why I love to travel so much. So the reason why I even started like this whole digital nomad journey and all of that, which for you guys that don't know, I'm a digital nomad and I essentially travel the world full time, but I'm transitioning more into long-term travel. We'll get into that
Yeah, yeah,
later.
we'll talk about that later.
But the reason why yeah, right. The reason why I like even started was because like I was maybe like 21, 22, so a couple years ago, and I was like I've like outgrown my childhood friends. My college friends, like I went to school in Florida, so like everyone's from everywhere, so I didn't have like proximity friends anymore. And I was like I was craving somebody else that like got me, like my 21, 22-year-old self, not my like 16-year-old self. And so, and I think it's funny that like I'm still close with like some girls from high school and stuff, but we talk about like high school memories and like when we were 15 and 16, like we're not really talking about like our goals and dreams now because like what we have in common is high school. And so anyways, so when I saw this thing on TikTok of work exchange. You go and you work somewhere in exchange for like room and board. So I worked at a ski resort and I have like never, ever in my life
I've
met
always wanted to
anybody
do
that
one of
was
those. Those are
you
so
should. You should. Even for a month, like you should. Um, but I've never met anybody that like understood my crazy. Again, we were talking about this earlier, where like I didn't want a job out of college. Like I wanted to do something different. Like I
that's the
didn't,
time
or a
in your
corporate
life
job,
to
I should
do
say.
it.
Like you know,
That's the
yeah,
time in your life to do
yeah,
it. And to your point of like you felt like you outgrew your childhood friends, like all of my friends now, with the exception of one girl that I've known since I was 10 and my college friends that are primarily guys, all of my female friends I have met since I was 22 or older. So,
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I met
It's
them
crazy.
later, like when I was already becoming who I am now, not the childhood me. Like,
Yeah,
before
yeah,
22, before 25, you are a completely different person.
yeah, exactly.
22, you are literally a truly completely different person.
Yeah. Like I don't even know 16-year-old me anymore. But it's just funny because when I moved to Colorado and the first or second day of the job, like I was talking to this girl And I was like, so, like you have the normal conversation, where are you from, whatever. And like, oh, what do you want to do? Like, is this like something you want to do full time? She's like, yeah. She's like, honestly, the past 2 years, I've been like traveling across the United States, just doing work exchanges. And I was like, what? People like you exist that like don't want a corporate job and like, want to do like something different and explore the world. And she was like, yeah, I don't really, she's like, I just want to like gain as many experiences as possible. She was a little older than me. Well, my age. So she was 24, I was 22. And I was like, what? And like for the next couple months, like that we were living there, we like became best friends. And then there was like a group of other, like two other guys and another girl that were starting to work. And they like kind of, we made a group together. And it was just like the first time that I've ever felt that like friendship, like real friendship outside of high school and even college. Because this was like during COVID and stuff. So we were taking classes online. But to bring all back to travel, it's like, yes, being an introvert, like, is kind of annoying because you can't help it at first. But then, like, when you do meet the people that you're like, you've never felt more connected with anybody else. Like, I feel that way when I travel. And so I don't think navigating it is too hard because I know, like, everyone's pretty much there for a reason, especially solo travelers. Like, we're all there to, like, explore the world because no one else like had the time to come with us or whatever it is, you know? So yeah, it's really interesting like meeting people from everywhere and hearing their stories.
It's funny that you did the work exchange because my brother's talking to a girl who's an au pair and she's Danish. And so like hearing
Mhm.
like her like that's what she's doing like every year contract she like goes somewhere different in the US because she's like not ready to she doesn't know if she's going to stay here. She obviously would need to get a visa and all of that stuff, but she's like 22, 23, and my brother's 22 going on 23, so I would imagine she's around the same age. And she's like, I don't know if I want to go back to Denmark. I don't know if I want to stay. I don't know where I want to go. So like I'm gonna use this time in my life where like I have nothing
Yeah.
holding me down to go and like try different cities. She lives in Dallas for a year now. She's here for a year. Like who knows where she's gonna go next? And I think it's like I'm like I would if I hadn't gone to law school when I did, I wouldn't have done it. And so I'm grateful that I did it. But like I'm so glad I studied abroad and I went on a bar trip and I've done 2 months in Europe on my own, no parents. And I've also done like trips with my parents, a lot of trips. And
Yeah.
I'm very grateful that since I was a baby, like I've traveled the world and like that's something that's super important to me and like I plan to do in the
Mhm.
future. But just like I almost wish I would have known about like I knew what an au pair was. I didn't want to be an au pair, but I didn't know that there was work exchanges inside the US until very recently. And I think it might have been one of your reels that have come up on my thing. And I'm like, oh, I didn't know you could do that. Like I know like the ski chalet girls in like Europe, and I was like, I would do that, but
Yeah.
like that's a big commitment. Like I'd rather do it local first. And I
Yeah.
didn't know about it. And like now I looking back, I'm like, I wish I would have done it because I had 6 months. Like I graduated a semester early, so for 6 months I worked at a law firm, and I was like, I could have just gone and done work exchange for 6 months before starting law school, and like who knows, like so much could have been different.
Right.
And that, so I think it's
Right.
freaking cool that you did it because yeah, why the hell not? Like this is a time in your life to do that. And so I
Exactly.
give you props and I want to talk about the evolution as from that
Thanks.
how you started to what you do now and like the transition you're going through. But what were your parents like reactions? Like where did you go to college what did you study? Like did you want to do like what was your goal going into college and what were your parents' reactions when you were like,
Yeah.
guys, I'm gonna go travel for a little while?
Yeah. It's so funny. It's so funny that you asked that because that's probably like, besides people asking me how I afford to travel, people ask me like what my parents' reaction is to like me just
Yeah.
going off and doing my own thing. And so I was always like teacher's pet, always like just like the person that loved school. I loved like just loved like the academic side of school. I was really good at like a lot of different subjects and things and like always like advanced, love to read, like just like a little bit of a nerd growing up. And so like college wasn't necessarily pressured by my parents, but it was definitely like you need to figure something else out if you're not going to go to college. And like also like them like most of our parents like being old school, it's like, well, what would you do if you didn't go to college, And now there's like a million things. Um But I was like, okay, so college, where do I want to go? Blah, blah, blah. So I ended up going to school in Massachusetts for a year. Did not like it. It was like too small of a school. And then I transferring to a school in Fort Lauderdale and like met the most amazing people, had the most amazing time. I first started studying psychology because I actually wanted to study dreams. This is a fun fact about me. Which is like I didn't know that this job existed, but like there's literally people that do like, studies on like what dreams mean and like I was telling my boyfriend that that's what I wanted to do. He's like, "Well, Sam, I had a dream last night about this. Like, what does that mean?" And I'm like, "I don't know anymore." Um, but it's like kind of like like a little secret power. I know some of dreams meanings, like teeth falling out, falling, like all of those like basic dreams. But I wanted to see dreams and I wanted to study like the psychology of like humans and like how we work and stuff. And then I learned that you can actually do that in the business world, transitioning into majoring in business, minoring in psychology. So, like, why is McDonald's colors red and yellow? Why is Burger King's colors blue? It's because, like, people react to, like, colors and brands in a certain way. And it's crazy. Like, learning all of that, I loved, like, all
That
of
stuff
that
is
sort of stuff.
fascinating to
And
me.
so,
I could never do it, but I think
right?
it's freaking cool.
I think about it all the time where I'm like, wow, they like, do you know how many years it took McDonald's to like create the friggin' M? Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, you don't think about that. And so I just loved like all of that stuff, like little secrets basically. So I really wanted to study psychology of humans in business and sales, all of that stuff. Um, Transitioned into business when I transferred schools and so my parents are like, Sam's going to own her own company. Sam's going to be the CEO of a company. Sam's going to, have her shit together and like, be making all this money. And like, she's really into the business side of things, blah, blah, blah. And then COVID happened. Like I had internships like, planned out and stuff. And then everything was just like, obviously shut down. And I was like, shoot, like, what do I do now? Like, and so I just, as everyone else did, got a TikTok account, whatever, scrolling through all the dances and stuff. And then all of a sudden, like I'm on travel TikTok. And this girl had posted about the work exchange. This was in 2020. And I was like, what is this? So I'm like doing all the research, like writing things down. I like made a PowerPoint for my parents to like have them show them all the benefits of it. And yeah, and so anyways, I had talked to my parents about moving, and this would have been my first time moving like outside of going to college. And they were like, "Sam, are you sure?" Like, just like they were asking questions because they knew like they knew that I would love it. So are you sure you want to go? Whatever. I'm like, yes, mom, like I'm going. And so, anyways, after that trip to Colorado, or like when I lived in Colorado, I had come back and I was like, Mom, I'm like going on another work exchange, like blah, blah, blah. And then she knew it kind of just like was like gonna roll from there. And that's when I started like travel content and then like getting more into that, I started the podcast and then I was like, I should do a blog to do more like content around this, and this. And now I have my own company. And now it's kind of like full circle of like, studying business. And like, I don't regret college, but sometimes I'm like, I could have probably done all this without college, but I made the most amazing friends and had the most amazing experiences. So, yeah, so it's kind of like full circle, except like adding travel into it. So my parents have been pretty supportive as long as like I continue to support myself and like have some sort of plan, which is hard, but
No, that makes so
yeah.
much sense, and it makes it so much easier when they give you that freedom to make your own decisions and make your own plan.
Yeah.
I really feel for the people that don't have that, and like that is something that and
Yeah.
I'm very grateful, and I'm very open about how grateful I am for that. My last solo episode, I talked about like I'm able to have my own firm at such a young age because I live at home and don't have to worry about paying rent. All of my money I'm making, I'm
Yeah.
saving it. Or
Yep.
if I don't put it back into the business, it's going to my savings account. Like I I'm not spending it.
Yeah.
And I could easily have a new designer bag a month if I wanted to, if I'm being super completely honest. But I'm
Right.
being smart about my money.
Right.
And
Right.
that's something that I thankfully was taught very early on from my parents and from the horror stories we hear on the internet all the time. So like that's the benefit of being on social media too. But having that support system is really empowering, honestly, I think is like a great word for it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that yeah, she definitely knew. She was like, "Oh no, if we let her go on this, like we're never getting her back." But they
Yep.
still let you go.
Exactly.
You
Exactly.
have to let your kid fly the coop, and like they'll come back. Like we're always gonna come back. Like both my brother and I
Yeah.
live at home now. We've
Right.
left for years. My brother for 4,
Yep.
me 7, and I'm back.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying
Yeah.
really like spending
Yeah.
time with my family in a way that
Same.
I'm a different person now, and
Yeah.
I love spending time with my family, and I enjoyed
Yeah.
spending time with my grandparents and my cousins and like the people in my life. And I'm like, all my friends are friends with my family. Like my friends come over, and it's like, oh, you want to come for family dinner? Invite Sarah, invite so and so. Like
Yeah.
it's just a one big happy party
Right.
family now, and like
Right.
I love that. So I think it's cool that you have
Exactly.
that
I
support
love that.
system.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did you go from doing a couple of work exchanges? How do you make money on work exchanges? Like, how are you saving to then when you graduated from college,
Mhm.
then be like, all right, here's what we're gonna do. Like, what was the plan that you had initially?
Yeah. Well, okay, so one thing to touch on about the family thing before I answer that question is like I remember the transition between like just being my mom's like daughter and then like being friends with my mom and like we're going to trivia karaoke night tonight. Like, we'll like go country line dancing. Like we'll just do stuff together. And like if you had told like 12-year-old me who was telling my mom like I don't like you, blah blah blah, like I would have
Oh,
never believed
same,
you. But
same.
now like I have like a whole new perspective on like family and like you said, like I would not have been able to like get where I am today in the slightest without my family and without like that support. So, like touching on what you said, it's like I've just grown to appreciate every single moment that I have like with my parents and with my family. And so it's like it's really nice to come back home now because so like I'll travel for like long periods of time, come back home to see family for like holidays, things like that. And like it's just nice to be like to still have that support system. So I just love being friends with my mom too. So shout out to my mom. But to answer your question, like how you said how was like the transition or like how did I start making money from it?
Well, like when you were doing the work exchanges, like, are you pocketing money at that time? Like, so when you graduated college, you had a nest egg
Okay.
to go into doing traveling full time? Or how did you make that transition once you actually graduated from college?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a great question. And so work exchanges is completely different than what I'm doing now. So the transition of that was like COVID happened. I had all this money saved up just from like stupid jobs, barista, waitress, all of these things throughout college. So I had some money saved up for like flights and all of that. But the like biggest perk of work exchange is you don't pay rent and you don't pay for food. Like those are your
Biggest
like,
cost?
unless you have a car or whatever, like that's your life expenses, you know? Yeah. So basically how it works, single like location is different. So I worked at a ski resort and how they did it was we got paid a certain amount hourly and then a small percentage, maybe like $2 or $3 would get taken out per hour for to go towards like the room and board. So like I guess technically you are paying for it. It's nowhere near like thousands of dollars for food and rent. Um, so those costs were like completely eliminated. And then work exchanges, a majority of the time are full time. So I'm working from like either the two shifts were either like 6 a.m. to 2 or like 2 to 10 or like something like that. Um, and so again, not having to pay rent or room and board, like I'm just saving money by working there. You know what I mean? But it was a totally different experience because like on our days off, we were just like hike up to the mountains or like drive up to watch the sunset. Or, when we had like, after a month, we had the money saved to go skiing and like all of that sort of stuff. So it's like work exchange that I had done, I'm super grateful for that because I know a lot of them are different and some of them do make you pay for certain things and like the hours are different, whatever. So like saving money was pretty easy because all of my friends were also the same thing. So I didn't have anybody else calling me up to go to the club on a Friday or to like go out for brunch on a Saturday because we were all doing the same thing. Um, so that was really nice. And also you can like pick the time frame that you want to do it. So I did mine for 3 months. And then I moved back home and I started working. I started like waitressing again and like saving up some more money because I knew I wanted to go on another work exchange. And so I did another work exchange and this one was a volunteer one. So you weren't getting paid, but you weren't paying for room and board or rent. I mean for rent or food. And so that one I only did for a month. And then I moved back home again and I was like, okay, I want to like start actually like putting my degree to use, like really wanting to get things off the ground. I started going to like travel conferences, meeting a lot of creators. I had a YouTube channel when I was 13, so I knew I wanted to do like something along the lines of content. Like I just loved like creating. So then I started posting about my work exchange experiences, and that's like when everything took off in the sense of like brands reaching out. Even with a smaller following, it was like people wanted to know like how I was doing things. They wanted to know how I was affording it. They wanted to know like how they can do it. And then that's when, after I was freelancing for a while, that's when I started the podcast. And the podcast has brought me like more experiences than anything else that I've been doing, which has been amazing. And I've met so many amazing people. And then I learned about this thing which is called a digital nomad, and you can like travel and work, like working remotely. It's always been a thing. Like people worked and traveled all the time, but it was never like called anything. Um, so that honestly started in like 2022, like beginning of 2023. So I've only really been doing it full time for like a year. Um, because other than that, I was just like flying home, coming back, things like that. And yeah, I just started like just flying different places that I've always wanted to go. Um, but money-wise now it's a little bit easier because I'm still freelancing, but I'm also working with brands and I'm also like working on the side and things like that. So like I have a couple different streams of income. So money-wise it's a lot easier, but time wise, as I'm getting older, like it's very exhausting, like traveling every single week and like bringing your laptop and then having like stuff for your work to do and like creating content. Like I feel like I go to Europe, I want to explore all these places. Now I have to create like 5 videos for it, but I don't have time because I have another city to go to. And then there's a bunch of new things that I wanted. When I first started, it was like very exhausting very quickly. But now I think I've gotten the hang of it and know like what to prioritize.
Yeah. So what do you do as a freelancer? You said you have a couple different streams of income. What are some things that people who are interested in being digital nomads, what can they do? Like, and what do you do as a freelancer?
Yeah. So, there's like a million different things that you can do. So first, if you just want to like work and travel in the sense of like the work exchange side of it where you don't want to like have a job or have like a task outside of what you're physically doing there, work exchanges through like World Packers, Workaway, Coolworks, they all those like different websites, they offer like volunteer opportunities and then like places that are hiring for work exchanges. So the great way to just like get started in terms of traveling and working. What I personally do, what I transitioned into was public relations. So when I first started my Instagram, I was doing a lot of outreach for myself, for brands, for hotels, for restaurants, for locations. And I was like, F it, I might as well do this for someone else. So I started pitching like podcasts and like other small businesses and things like that and was like, hey, I can, help you to more publications. I can help you get interviewed on podcasts. I can, do the outreach for magazines and things like that. So I started getting into that. I have one client where I'm doing social media management for, but I prefer not to because I spend so much time on it for myself that
I
spending any
outsource
more
that
time
so
on social media
fast.
for anyone else is a lot.
Yeah.
Um, and then what else do I do? So yeah, so that's my freelancing side, but then my other streams of income are my company where I offer like services for other digital nomads, other creators, like helping them scale their businesses, things like that, doing consulting slightly. And then lastly is the podcast and like my content creation, like Instagram and TikTok and stuff.
Yeah. No, I
So
think it's genius.
yeah, so there's like so many different things that you can do to get started.
I think it's genius. I think there's so much. It's funny because you said like you only really been doing this the way you're doing it now for a year. I've only been doing my firm for a year. And I feel like there's so many people
Yeah.
within like the 22 to 35, 36 range that are in the last year to 2 years have really gone on their own. Like, I feel like, I don't know if it's because we came out of COVID,
Yeah.
like entrepreneurship is like not as crazy as it used to be. Like, it's a lot more doable now because there's resources and people talking about it, or because of the
Yeah.
digital nomad life, or because of work from home, or whatever it is. But like, there's just like an uptick in it. And I think it's not as mystified anymore. And I genuinely love surrounding myself with people who get that lifestyle and who get it, like the work from home life or the, remote working life, digital
Yeah.
nomad. I still love my traditional like corporate people. Like that will always be a part of who I am because I studied law to one day do that and because my family's in that. But like, and I think like ultimately, I think I'm gonna need someone like that in my life as a partner because they ground me and they give me structure to like let me go be crazy. What we were talking about
Right,
today.
exactly.
But like I need to
Yeah.
feel free. Like I'm a Sagittarius. I don't know if you believe in that stuff, but like Sagittarius can't be put in a cage. We
Yeah.
need to be free.
Aries.
I can't feel like I'm confined. And I joke because I outsourced social media and like admin stuff at the end of October, so 4.5 months ago, and it was the best thing I ever did. And like I joke because one of them's a Capricorn, and I was like, "You are the earth to my fire. You don't wash me out. You don't drown me with like a water
Yeah.
wood, but you spread out my fire so the flames don't burn as bright and like they're a little bit easier to manage."
Yeah.
That's literally what I need in my life. So it's hilarious, but I think
Yeah.
it's that you were like, you know what, I can have multiple streams of income and make a living and I don't have to do it all in one. Like the golden handcuffs aren't I don't know. Like for some people that will always be a thing, but I don't foresee that in like 5 or 10 years being as like constraining as it has been in the past because of these new ways of living and making a living. So I think it's really cool that you do that. But yeah, what does that look like now for you? Because you mentioned like you much prefer now to work and live in a place for a month or two at a time instead of like a couple of weeks at a time or
Yeah.
like a week in a different city. So you're not lugging around all this stuff for
Yeah.
work. You're able to really enjoy where you're at when you're not making content because it's hard to like travel and make travel content, and then also enjoy where you're at. So how do you navigate
Yeah.
that now, enjoying where you're at and making that more of a lifestyle for you?
Yeah. The balance of being a content creator and entrepreneur and a like person that travels is like the hardest work life balance that there is because like you kind of feel this like unsaid pressure slash expectation to be posting constantly, especially when you're traveling or especially when you're doing something else. It's like, oh, people probably want to see where I am when it's like Kayla, I don't think that you ever like since we've been following each other been like, what is Sam like gonna post today? Like, you know
No.
what I mean? Like, we just don't think about like anybody else. You know what I mean?
No. I don't
Except
think
for
about any of
me, I'm
you.
like, oh, people want to see this. No, literally, like we are not thinking about any else, and no one's thinking about us.
No.
And I think like coming to that realization recently too of like no
Same.
one is
That's
waiting
such
for
a good
my
point,
dang
actually.
reel.
That's so it's hard. Like I'm like, man, I should post this. I'm doing something really cool. And I'm like,
It's
no,
so
I want
hard.
to freaking enjoy it. Like I'll post it later. And then sometimes I'll forget to take pictures to post later because oh,
Exactly.
in the moment, it's hard. It's so hard.
Yep. It's so hard. And like being brutally honest with myself, being like, Sam, no one's even waiting for, like, no one's waiting for your reels. No one's waiting for your posts. Like, it's not a thing.
Nope.
And um, so I think like the balance of everything like has just started to kick in. At first, I was just doing it just because it was fun and like I was like, I want to go everywhere and see every place and blah blah blah. Whereas now it's like, okay, I'm craving that balance or like routine in the sense of like I want to get to know people at like the local coffee shop. Like I want to like make more long-term friends and more connections. I think the biggest misconception about travel, it was true, but to a certain extent of like, oh, you make friends all over the world. That is absolutely true. Like you can give me a country and I'll be like, oh, I know someone, I can connect you with them, blah, blah, blah. Amazing, amazing way to make connections. But if like something were to happen now where I am, like they're not the person that I can call
Yeah,
up.
there's a difference between
Like,
making
you
a
know what I mean?
connection
And
and
so,
fostering it and being able to leverage it when you need it, and that's something I talk about a lot in just networking
yeah,
in, like, a professional sense, but for sure, I have friends all over the world, but I can't not all of them can I call and be like, "Hey, I'm in your country," like, I'm not friends with them like that, like, not anymore because I wasn't there to really
right.
to know them, like, that's
Exactly.
such a great point, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah. Exactly, exactly. And just like proximity. Like, okay, so say I'm going through a breakup or something. It's like I want someone to come over with wine and ice cream and have a movie night. And it's like we travel so often, like there really isn't anybody to do that with. And like it's really sad. And I'm trying to like move into more like long-term friendships, like what we were talking about before, especially like being in my 20s, like I need that support system and traveling for such short periods of time for so long. It was so hard to like really be going through anything and have like a best friend to call because there was no like best friend. It was just friends that I met that week. Amazing. We kicked it off. All right, I'll see you when I see you. We'll follow each other on Instagram, you know? So now the transition of like acceptance of like, I don't need to see 10 countries and 15 countries when I like book a flight. You know, like that's my toxic trait is I'll book one flight to France and be like, well, there's like 10 countries around it that only cost this much to go to. I might as well see all of them. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's a blessing and a curse, you know? And so now I'm like, okay, well, if I were to say 3 months or 4 months in France, which like for some people that's also still short term, um, at least that way, like on a weekend, I can go to one other country. Like I don't need to do it all in a week or 2 weeks. And then also that way, like I know my way around. That's also something people don't really think about is like you're learning a whole new transportation system every single time you travel, whether it's train, bus,
And
car,
and currency.
ferry, like, and it's exhausting. And currency, exactly. And it's like, I've just gotten to a point where it's like too exhausting to keep up with. And so, looking for more long-term places. Honestly, I'm at the point of like 6 months to a year. And then traveling from that home base. I don't ever like say like, oh, I'm thinking about settling down now. But like I do want someone to come home to. Like I was just in Mexico and being able to like come home and shower. I can't
In
express
your
like
own
your
home, in
home
your own
shower.
bed, your own yeah, no, I
Yes.
get it. I get it.
Yes. Like you can't get that feeling anywhere else.
No. Okay, I have so many questions. How many countries have you been to and what's your favorite country?
Okay, so I have been to like 10 or 11 countries now. My favorite country, oh my God, that's so hard. My favorite country is probably Guatemala.
I've been really wanting to go. I have never been. I love Costa Rica and I think I've been to
Yep.
Panama. Probably as on a cruise and I've been to Mexico a bunch of times. But I've been really wanting to go to
Yeah.
Guatemala. So, okay, cool. Um, so you mentioned you had a
Add that to your list.
yeah, no, it's I tell my mom all the time. We were gonna go to Argentina, and then I was like, maybe Guatemala, and we're going to Colombia. So still in Latin America, different new country.
Perfect.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
do
right.
30 countries before 30. I have 4 years and 15 countries to go, or 14 countries to go. So
Mhm.
you and I need to talk about doing like
You got it.
a month or two somewhere.
Yeah.
September maybe. Let's go there.
Seriously.
We'll talk offline. But
Yeah.
and you mentioned you have a
I'll
boyfriend.
look at flights. Yeah.
You tell me what I'm my toxic trait is, oh, let's go on a trip. I'm booking a flights as we're talking. But you mentioned having a
Yeah.
boyfriend.
I love it.
How do you make time for your relationship? Like, does he travel along with you? Like, or is he home? Like, how do you navigate that aspect of things? Like, when you have made these connections and you really want to foster
Yeah.
them now, but you are moving around a little bit. Like, how do you keep those friendships and those
Yeah. Yeah. Friendships is actually a lot easier than I had thought. Because I'm at the point and we're all at the understanding of like we're all in different places. We all have work. Like we're all doing different things. Like when we FaceTime, we FaceTime. We know we'll always respond to a text, but like we were saying before, like it's not an everyday thing, and like I'm okay with that, you know? Like I'm totally fine with like being able to text somebody when things are going on. So friendship wise, it's a lot easier than relationship wise, of course.
Yeah.
Relationship wise, when me and my boyfriend had first met, like traveling was the priority before we even started dating. And like that's something that I talk about on my podcast a lot is like people ask me like, "Oh, well, is he okay with you traveling so much? Like, don't you guys miss each other, blah blah blah." And it's like he knew that this was going to be like the way that our relationship was going to be like
Yeah.
before we even started dating. And so I know that a lot of people are like in current relationships and it's really hard, but for people that are like starting to get into a relationship or thinking about, like starting to date somebody, making sure that they know like hey, like if a good flight deal comes up or like if I have an opportunity somewhere or whatever, like you're going, you know what I mean? And
That's the key.
that's
That's
kind
the
of how it
key.
is with us.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
funny, we were talking about this offline, but it's like, you knew who I was when you met me. Like, if, like, all of a sudden
Yep.
they're like, "Well, I don't like that you do this," or, "I don't like," and it's like,
Right.
never made any illusions that I
Don't
didn't.
act
I'm like,
surprised.
yeah, like, what do you mean? Like, I made that very clear, like, I'm not gonna give up the opportunity, and, like, that was a big thing for me, like, I want to be home to have access to all the opportunities here, but if there's nothing that month keeping me here, why not go on a trip and work remotely for a few weeks at a time? Like, I'm planning to do New York in August, like, the whole month of August, first week of September, like, you know, I want to be, because I have to be in New York for work for weekends. I want to go for a week ahead of time, meet all my clients in New York and like network and do all the things there, and then go to the US Open and Fashion Week. And I want to do like a couple weeks in LA because I have clients out there.
Yeah.
But I would love to do like a trip, like I would love to do like Australia for a month or like somewhere in Europe for a month in the next 1 to 2 years. That's what I'm saying. Like, we got to talk, because I think like being,
Yeah.
especially somewhere like Australia, you need at least a month to really adjust to the time zone and get used to the life there, and then be able to work and play and have fun. But I'm curious, like, how you did that with your
Yeah.
boyfriend. Like, so is he in your hometown, or where is he based that like you go home to? And does he ever join you on trips?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's a mix of both. We've recently started going on a lot of work trips together because he is also an entrepreneur and a graphic designer. So he does like freelance work and then he has his own clothing brand. So his line of work though is completely different than mine. Which is also kind of why we've compromised on and I never thought I would compromise with anybody on anything, like, when it came to travel, but now, like, I'm starting to realize what's best for me and, like, that long-term home base, sort of, like, environment and being able to travel from there is great, and then for him, like, with his clients, with his entrepreneur, like, company and stuff, like, essential for him to have a home base too for, like, shipping and other things. So when it comes to like we're planning on moving together and stuff like that in the upcoming months, but he does come on trips with me sometimes. But our travel like lifestyles are the same but different. Like I'm more on the like experiences side and he's more on like the relaxation side. So like, he wants to relax when he's on vacation, and I want to, like, do something have something planned every single day,
I'm a balance. I
blah, blah,
like
blah. So,
a
again, like
little
Yeah. Yeah, right. So we've learned to balance it when it comes to traveling together, but also like he is now at the point where we've been together for almost 3 years of like when I'm traveling, I am working. Like content is work, like location restaurants that we're going to is work. And then we always make it a necessity to have like if we're traveling more long term to have like 2 days, 3 days, the weekend, a week of like us time. So like no work, no content, no like nothing because it can get very like the quality of time that we're spending together ends up always being working. And I think that that's like very
That's a big
unhealthy.
that's huge. That's
So
huge that you guys were
yeah.
able
So
to
we've
come up.
definitely found the balance, but it was hard at first for sure.
Oh, yeah. And no, that's exciting, like moving in together. And it's good that you're able to strike that compromise and that he is able to join you and understands like where you're at and like who you are and what you're looking for. And he can join you in that when he can. And that he allows you to have that freedom as you guys enter this next chapter of living together. And now that you said like you want more long term, you want to build more sustainable, like long term relationships and friendships and
Yeah.
opportunities for yourself and be in one place at a time. Like, how do you see as you enter like your mid to late 20s, like in the next few years, like, are you going to travel less but longer periods? Like, or do you like, how are you going to how is that going to change your lifestyle, like being a digital nomad but also having that home
Yeah.
somewhere to come home to? Like I'm genuinely
Yeah.
curious because it's something that I've
Yeah.
really thought about too, because I can do what you're doing and I part of me wants to and the
Yeah.
other part of me is like I don't think I'm able equipped for that, so I'm curious.
Right, right. So, okay, so I'll guess it's like kind of like a two-part question. Like I never thought I'd be saying, yeah, I'm traveling less like this year. But it's to the point of like I'm at the age where I need community and I have not been able to find that while traveling. And like we said, like there's people everywhere that I connect with and that like I'm really close friends with, but like it's not everybody in one place, you know? So like for example, moving to France, at least even if I don't know anybody when I get there, at least I'll know like, okay, well, I can go to the same coffee shop every day and work there. I'll have a girlfriend from like whatever, the barista, whatever it is. I can go to like co-working spaces. So now like that's a huge thing of people who work from home will go somewhere else to meet people and network and things like that. And so I think the community aspect is, like, what I'm craving this year as opposed to, like, seeing everywhere in the world. Always like to say, like, Paris isn't going anywhere, like, Italy's not going anywhere, so, like, if I don't get to it this year, like, it's not the end of the world. And so I think, like, in the next, like, year, it will definitely be, like, less places for longer periods of time. There's also so many resources for digital nomads, like, to feel that way. So, like, there's co-living spaces, which is, like, a minimum of a month that you stay and you live in a house with a bunch of other digital nomads. And you can stay there for, like, 3 or 4 months if you want. You can stay there for a month. And it's just a way to, like, have a community and have a home base, but also, like, be around other people who wanna, like, go adventure at night or, like, when they're off from work, like, go and go out to eat or, like, whatever it is. So, I think I wanna get more into that. Um,
Sign me
and
up, let's go.
then
I'll go with you
yeah.
for a month or two.
Yeah, no, right? Right? I think, like, getting more into that and, like, meeting other people that, like, are kind of craving the same thing is, like, where I'm at in my life at this point. Also, I wanted to say something that I, like, struggle with is the whole, like, well, I already put out there on social media that I travel full time, so I can't stop traveling full time. Like, I can't stop. And it's like, I'm the one that said, like, I'm the
Yeah.
one that put that in my bio. Like, no one told me that, so I can, like, take it out or, like, not do that anymore. So I
You
think
could
social
always
media has had
reinvent yourself. You could always reinvent
yeah,
yourself. You could always change your mind.
exactly. Exactly, exactly. I just think social media has put, like, a hold on so many people to, like, do one thing and make sure you're perfect at that one thing, so that way you gain followers and you get engagement and you this and that. And, like, just working in social media, it gets to be a lot. So that was also a struggle, like for a long time of being like, well, I'm telling everybody that I'm a full-time digital nomad, but I actually don't want to travel like every week. So like how, and it's like
But
I can change that at any point.
yeah, but like just because you're not traveling every week doesn't mean you're not a digital nomad. Like that, like they're not.
Right.
You get the whole point of being a digital nomad. I think is that you get to decide what that looks like for you, and that's like
Yeah.
that's for anything. And like I made a TikTok about this. I don't know if I've posted it yet, but I'm sure by the time that this is up, it'll be up somewhere on my profile. But it
Mhm.
was like niching down is putting a ceiling on your potential. Like if you
Yeah.
stick to a niche and you are so dead set on putting yourself in a niche for followers or to grow and to scale, you are not allowing yourself to evolve and to grow. And like we were talking about earlier, like you and I are both, but especially you, like you are at the biggest transformation stage of your life. Like you are leaving your early 20s, you are entering your mid 20s now at 24. This is the time where you get to figure out who you are and what you want and what you're looking for. And, you know, you get to decide what that looks like for you, and that your content is going to change as you change and as you grow. And I'm struggling with that too of like, you know, I have my own firm, so I want to have a home base, but I also, while I'm young and have no dependents and can do it, I'm gonna go do as much traveling and exploring and meeting people and going buck wild as I can. And then when that time
Yeah.
comes to settle down, I will do so, but I'm not there yet. I'm not ready yet. And I got really close to tasting that, and I was like, no, I'm not ready yet. I don't want to settle down yet.
Nope. Yeah.
I'm good. I'm good. So let's go
Yeah.
somewhere for a month or two and
We
explore and
need
see
to.
the world. No, like we actually, after with this call, like we're having
Yeah.
a separate conversation. But how many languages have you picked up, or like how can you speak now? Because you're being immersed in all these cultures, and like how many languages can you speak or understand, and what's your favorite
Yeah.
culture that you've experienced along the way?
What's my favorite one?
Culture.
Oh, culture. Okay. So yes, it's funny that you asked that because um this year for the past in January and February so far, I've been to Costa Rica and Mexico, and those were longer term trips. So Costa Rica was like 2 weeks and Mexico was the month of February. And I was like, I need to learn Spanish. Like I knew how to ask for the bathroom, how to ask like hi, bye, thank you, the basics. Like I like to learn all of those things in every country that I go to. So with Spanish it was easy because I learned that in school. But Costa Rica, there was a lot of people that did not speak English, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna just have to pull my like
Yeah.
11th grade Spanish, and try my best. So I started speaking to people in Spanish, broken Spanish at that point. And then I came back home, and my boyfriend's family is from Panama, actually. So they speak Spanish. He doesn't
That
speak
helps.
Spanish, but they speak Spanish. Um, and so anyway, so I'm like being around them, like just hearing phrases that I'm like, oh yeah, I heard that in Costa Rica. I know what that means, like things like that. And then me and my boyfriend went to Mexico for a month for a work travel trip. And we were like, F it, every single restaurant we go to, like we're not gonna speak English. So we would like go up, we would just go up to like the people at the front, the host would be like, hola, ¿qué tal? Whatever, start talking, and then they're like seating us to our table. We order in Spanish, we get menus in Spanish. Like when they ask like español inglés, you say español, like you just know, like, all right, we're not speaking English, and like it has helped so much. And I've learned more Spanish in the past month, like conversational Spanish, than
Yeah.
like in any school setting
100%.
that
I was
I've
talking
been
about
to.
this yesterday. You don't learn conversational Spanish or any language conversationally in school. You only learn the
No.
grammatical proper way to say
Yep.
things. I'm losing my Spanish because I don't speak it every day unless I speak to my grandma. Like I really don't speak it as much as I used to when I worked at a law firm and I had to speak it every single day, day in and day out. I was so much better at it, and it's my first language. So, and I like it makes me really sad. So
Yeah.
I'll go with you to Guatemala or wherever and only speak
Yes.
Spanish with you. You actually speak it pretty good. Like you
Yes.
have an accent when you say like "Hola, qué tal?"
Oh,
So
thanks.
that's good. But no, I'm down. I mean, wherever. But what's your favorite culture that you've experienced?
um, okay, that's a good one. I think the culture are different, obviously, everywhere you go in the sense of like the continent. So like in like Latin America, the culture seems to be pretty similar. In Europe, the culture seems to be pretty similar. The US, like the culture is very different, but based on states, which is funny. I would probably say my favorite culture, like I want to say like Costa Rica, Guatemala, because Mexico was definitely more, we traveled to Cancun, Playa del Carmen, and Tulum, and like as we continued to travel, we started getting like less and less of like the touristy Mexico and more of like the local cultural Mexico, which was amazing. But I don't think we fully like immersed ourselves as much as I had when I was in Costa Rica and Guatemala, and I think
Yeah.
like just like the Spanish culture of like hospitality, like events and activities and like community has been like something that I haven't experienced really anywhere else.
Yeah. I mean, as a Latina, it makes me happy to hear it. Costa Rica is one of my favorite places in the entire world.
I
I've
love it.
never
Yeah.
done, I don't like Cancun, Cozumel. Like my family doesn't, we don't go there. Like I've never been to Cabo and I've never been to Playa Vallarta or anything like that. But
Yeah.
done like the touristy spots. I've never done Tulum, but like we've done Cancun, Cozumel, and my parents like, I will never go back. I'm like, I'm going to Cabo
Yeah.
for a wedding next year. So I'm excited to finally experience Cabo and I want to go to Tulum, but I'm dying to go to Mexico City to truly experience like Mexico as a
Yeah.
local. Like, I'm like
Yeah.
you. If I'm gonna go, I want to go do the local stuff. I'll do the touristy things the first day. I'll get them all out of the way.
Yep.
Day
Same.
up to
Same.
sundown, I'm dead. The next day, I'm like, all right, now we're going where the locals go. So I'm
Yeah.
let's go wherever you want, Spanish speaking or not. Hopefully, it's a new country
Yeah.
I can add to check off my list. But speaking of lists, what's your bucket list like country you have to go to?
My top two for this year is Bali and Australia.
Have you been to them before, or are
Um,
those where you want to go?
so or I guess Indonesia and Australia, but I have never been. And like I really want to go this year. Like though if I don't go anywhere else besides there, like I'll be happy, besides our trip, of course.
Let's go to
But
Australia. No, I'm serious. Let's go to
yeah,
Australia. I really want to go.
seriously.
Let's go to Australia.
We can talk Spanish to each other. We can talk Spanish to each other.
No, let's do it. Let's go. In like
Um,
September, it's like it's winter for them, but it's still like probably hot. Like
yeah, it's got to be, right?
I can do
Yeah,
July or I
so
can do September. When do you want to go?
yeah. Okay. We're planning this. Like not us
I'm
like in the
not
middle of the podcast
no,
episode
I
planning our
literally I'm
trip
not
to
kidding.
Australia.
I'm not kidding. We're doing this. This is happening. But
But yeah, so those are my top two, like for sure. Bali has been like literally since I started traveling, that's been like my top destination in terms of like culture, digital nomad community, a lot of like expats and just people that are from like all over do end up moving there. And so I actually met somebody at the most recent conference that I went to who lives in Bali, and it's like I feel like I just get so many signs that to go. Every time I travel, I meet someone from Bali or I meet somebody telling me about their experience and things like
no, yeah,
that. And
you
it's
have
like,
to go then.
yeah. So like now I have to, you know.
What conferences do you go to? I want to go to one. They sound cool.
So they're so much fun. You meet so many creators. Like it's a travel conference, so a majority of people are travel creators, but like just people in the space of like creating. So there's like Women in Travel Summit. That one's coming up. It's actually in Utah this year. I just came back from one that was in Playa del Carmen. It's called Women's Travel Fest. I've been to WTM, which is World Travel Market. That's in London. That one's more for like hotels or to work with hotels and restaurants. A
I
lot of
love
creators go to
London.
like meet
London's
people.
one of my
London.
favorite cities in the entire world. But
It was
I want to
amazing.
go to one of these with you, and then we can go to Australia. Let's do 2 trips.
Yeah,
Oh,
we'll
wow.
find one. We'll find one in Australia.
There we go.
Yeah.
Where's like the furthest place you've been, or like the most different place? Like, have you been to have you been to Asia before, or like how far in Europe have you been? Africa, any of those places?
So Yeah, so it's funny because when you asked about the countries thing, like I know how many states I've been to because I'm trying to do all 50 states. And so I've traveled like across the US like pretty well. In terms of countries, like I've only done Latin America or in continents, I've only done Latin America and Europe.
Same.
And the farthest in Europe I've been was like Prague and Greece.
Okay.
So, but again, like Asia and Australia, like that's territory I have never touched and I want to.
Yeah.
But I feel like we were talking about before, it's like more of a commitment. Like you can't go there for a week like you can with like Mexico or whatever,
Yeah.
so it's a lot harder to like plan that type of trip out. But yeah, I did see a TikTok though that said this girl was saying like if you ask an American where Switzerland is, like they're probably not going to be able to point it out. Like Americans are so like not well traveled. And then someone stitched it because I think this too about Americans. Like I know that our geography is just not the best,
Yeah.
but he made a good point where it's like he was like Americans are well traveled in their own country. Like you
Because
never
it's
have
so
to leave the
fucking
US and you will
massive.
experience exactly. You will experience like summer, winter, mountains, like
It's wild.
beaches, every single like
It's funny.
he was like every
I just did a road trip from Seattle to Alabama, and we touched every like
dude,
every time zone because I left from the East Coast. Every time zone, every like climate, like snow and beach, like mountains,
yeah,
like literally everything. Like you touch
everything.
everything in this country, and that was only like the borders. Like
Yeah.
insane. Like
Yeah.
it's wild.
Exactly, exactly. He was like, it's crazy for people from other countries to not have a passport, like the UK or Europe. It's like crazy for them not to have a passport. Do you know how many of my friends like don't have passports, which is wild to me as someone that travels, but like
Same.
Americans don't need passports because they can travel within the US and get everything that they need like
Yeah.
anywhere,
I
you
it's
know?
it's funny. Yeah, I haven't traveled as much of the US as I would like to. I would love to do the 50 states, like, with my kids, like, on a road trip because I'm not taking these
Yeah.
fuckers to Europe until they're old enough to appreciate Europe. I didn't go
For
to
real.
Europe until I was 18, my brother was 16. The farthest I've been is Greece. I did
Yeah.
Greece, Italy on my first trip to Europe, which, like, it's freaking insane. But I was
Yeah.
16. Like, my kids are not going until they're, like, 15, 16, and can truly appreciate it. Like, so
You have to.
we'll do the road trips in the States, like the national parks and all of that stuff. Like, I did Hawaii for my 15th birthday. That was, like, my quinceañera trip. Um,
Yeah.
my brother got Europe, but yeah, I've never done Asia or Africa or any of that. Like I Australia and Japan are like two of my like bucket list
Mm,
happens. And my goal
yeah.
is to do them now before I turn 30. So I
Yeah.
can do the US with my kids the first 2 years and then I'll go back to doing all of the other places later on in life.
Yeah. I
But
love that.
no, this has been so much fun. We will continue chatting offline, but where can
Yeah.
everybody find you? And what's one piece of advice for someone who wants to get into being a digital nomad?
Um, so you can find me on Instagram and TikTok at Sam Evans Travels, and my company is called Lifestyle Redesigned. That's also my podcast. So you can find us at lifestyle-redesigned.com. And our podcast is available on all platforms. We essentially talk about life outside of the 9 to 5, doing something different with your life, making your dreams into reality. You don't have to follow societal norms to be successful. Lots of interviews, lots of solo episodes. So definitely check that out. In terms of advice, I would say one piece of advice, I guess it's not really advice, it's more like a statement that like I keep with me, and that's if you're in the room, you belong there. And essentially like that means like wherever you're putting yourself, that's where you're meant to be. And so like, and this is in terms of like entrepreneurship as well as travel. So like, and it goes to imposter syndrome as well, because I feel like a lot of us, either as entrepreneurs, people who love to travel, just people in general, we think that like wherever we are, we're not really like supposed to be there. It's like we're
Yeah.
not qualified enough, or like we're not meant to be there. When I travel, I am always like, is this like too much for me? Like, do I deserve to be here? Um, and I think that like that's something really important to like remind yourself of like the people you're surrounding yourself with, the places that you are, like, you know, that really does make a difference on who you are. So I think just reminding yourself to put yourself in like places that you know that will like help you grow and like communities that are meant for you. And also like not being afraid to do things that are out of your comfort zone, because that will teach you more than anything else in the world.
100%. I couldn't have said it better. Lo que es para ti, nadie te lo quita. I always say that. I say that all the time on this podcast, but it's you wouldn't
Yeah,
if you weren't meant to be there, you wouldn't have the opportunity to be there. And that goes to everything.
exactly.
So I love that. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming on the podcast. And we'll see you guys next
Thank you
week.
so much for having me.